Welcome to Fantasy Football Live, presented by Ram Trucks. Andy Behrens, Sal Vetri. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to get you ready for Thursday night football. And let's be real, we've reached fantasy playoffs. We're here to help you not get your butts kicked. Like now, the whole season becomes a total waste if things don't go right tonight. We need a beacon of hope in a dark, dark world to start this show, Sal, off. It's National Gingerbread House Day. So, what are we doing? What's the fantasy football gingerbread house we're building? Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this day circled for a while now, so I'm excited to be celebrating with you guys tonight. Yeah, we'll have Thursday night football. Thankfully, a good game on this holiday for once, so I'm looking forward to all the activities tonight.
Andy Behrens, do you eat the gingerbread house, or do you just sit and look at the gingerbread house?
Yeah, you look at it for a while, you let dust and other things collect on it for a few days, and then you eat that thing. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah, look, 100%. We actually are all starting the show with an agreement on this, although I will say maybe it's your last place punishment to have to eat one that's sat out for like 4.5 months. It's week 15. Everyone's back in. We got huge matchups, 2 Monday night games. This is going to be a wild week. You guys can get involved in the show right out of the gates in the YouTube chat. All you got to do is use the hashtag AskFFL. Get your questions in there. We will get them answered. Thursday night football is where it all starts out in sunny, actually soggy California. Let's get you ready for the Rams at 49ers, 7-6, 6-7. We feel like the 49ers are left for dead, but they're not dead yet. 49ers 2.5-point favorite on this, over under 49, and my British accent stinks. All right, let's take a look at some of the previews on the injuries. Isaac Orlando active in this one. Demarcus Robinson active on this one. And we get questions right away. Peach is asking, Orlando out. Should I wait to start Thielen or Zay Sunday full PPR? Thanks. I'm just going to go right to this question, Sal. What are we supposed to do considering the fact that he is in? You waiting? You starting him? What are you doing?
I mean, for this specific question, I'm starting Zay Flowers coming off of a bye in that Baltimore offense that is projected for nearly 30 points, the highest on the week against the Giants, even though they're on the road. But you could play Horrendo tonight. Like they said, it wasn't going to be anything major. It was kind of precautionary that he left that game last week and didn't come back. And as of right now, everything's kind of indicating that he was practicing. He's active tonight. Kyle Shanahan saying that he's going to be a go, but there's no buys this week. All the good running backs are back. So I'm looking at this as Horrendo being around the RB20 on the week or somewhere around there. Nice flex option, but you don't have to force him into your lineups over a guy like Zay Flowers.
All right, so now here's the real question, because obviously Patrick, a lot of y'all were out there grinching it, trying to take Patrick Taylor, thinking that you're stealing Christmas for everybody else. Added over in over 325,000 leagues. Is he startable now, Andy Behrens? What are we doing with like the 87th running back for the 49ers this year?
No, he's the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup. He is emphatically not startable tonight with Orlando playing. There was a very clear hierarchy there between those two. Orlando also kind of downplayed the impact of the injury immediately following the game on Sunday. So this has always looked like a situation in which he might be able to go tonight. It's a great sign that he's going on a short week. They didn't activate Izzy Ibanaconda, which would have been a sign that they were a little bit worried about Orlando. So I think he's all systems go. I agree with Sal. I don't think he's a must start, but I've got him RB22 right now. I think he's a solid enough RB2.
Ibanaconda don't want none. Okay, fine. I'll keep going. All right, we'll get back to players to watch. Obviously, with this Thursday night matchup, everybody in the playoffs. Players to watch. Sal, who do you have your eye on?
Yeah, how don't I say Juwan Jennings for this segment? I mean, Juwan Jennings, he was coming into week 14 kind of on a slump if you just look at his fantasy box scores, but none of it was his fault. He played in a blizzard in week 13. In week 12, he didn't have his quarterback, Brock Purdy, and even in those games, he was leading the team in receiving yards and or targets. But he gets right in week 14 with Brock Purdy finally healthy, in a good weather environment, catches 7 of 8 targets, has 2 touchdowns, another 25-plus fantasy points for you. And now since the bye week, since he returned from an injury, Ayuk hasn't played that entire time, he leads the team with an elite 32% target share, nearly double George Kittle, 15% higher than Deebo Samuel. Everything is panning out for Juwan Jennings to continue to be a league winner for you. This matchup as well, you remember earlier this year, week 6, big game of 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, I don't think that happens tonight, but it is still a Rams secondary that, although getting a little bit healthier, they don't have Kobe Durant tonight. Should be another good spot for Juwan Jennings to continue this hot streak. I'm watching him closely.
I love that call. I'll give you my thought on this, and it's Kyren Williams. I'm keeping an eye on this all day, every day, and part of this is because the 49ers defense isn't ready to handle it. They have a bottom 10 rush defense in EPA, success rate, touchdown percentage. All of that points to Kyren going off in this game. Now, I know what you're going to say. A lot of carries last week. Well, let's remember that the last time they played on a Thursday earlier this season, they had no hesitation. They gave him 28 touches on that Thursday night game after giving him 21 touches just a few days before. So I am not worried, considering particularly the matchup is a nightmare for the 49ers. I'm not worried about the heavy workload just a few days ago. Kyren Williams is my player to watch. Andy Behrens, what do you got for me?
Oh, it's got to be Puka Nacua. He was obviously a revelation last season as a rookie, a transformative player for the Rams offense. He's battled injuries this year, but I am here to tell you that he has been better, if not for fantasy, at least in reality. Nacua has missed 5 games this year, and he actually missed a decent portion of a 6th game after that ejection. Yet he is still somehow over 700 receiving yards already. He's caught 72% of his targets. That's an exceptional rate for a receiver. And he leads all wide receivers in yards per route run at 3.5, which is just an obnoxious number. That is elite among the elite. If his game had one hole last year, it was probably the fact that he led all wide receivers in drops. He missed a few chances. PFF tracked him with 13 drops on the year. This year, only 3 drop passes over 8 games. He is making routine plays. He's making extraordinary plays. And he's basically never whiffing on an opportunity. The Rams didn't have either Nacua or Cooper Kupp earlier this season when they actually beat the Niners. Both of them fully operational tonight in the rematch. Can't wait for it.
You guys are just making this matchup sound so like 7-6 versus 6-7, and yet I sit here stoked. All right, let's bring the props, bring the noise, bring the funk, give you guys a chance to make a little bit of cash. We feel good about some props in this one. Andy Behrens, I'm sure you've got some prop on, a kicker that we've never heard of or a water bottle squeezing. I don't know. What's a prop for Andy Behrens this week?
Even better, it's an Iowa tight end. I kind of discovered the world of longest reception overs last week, and I'm excited by it. So give me George Kittle, longest reception, over 21.5 yards. He has pretty emphatically reasserted himself as the game's best overall tight end, I think, this season. He's up to 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, averaging 14.3 yards per catch. He's actually topped this longest reception number in 8 of his 11 games this year. In fact, he has a catch of 30 or more yards in 5 of his last 6. This is not even a little bit unusual for him to reach this total on a single catch. Also, in weeks without Christian McCaffrey this year, Kittle has a target share over 25%. So we certainly aren't worried about pass volume in this one. I don't have a great track record when I offer guarantees on this show historically, so I'm not going to go that far here. But I will tell you that I am personally invested in this particular prop and feeling good about it.
Oh, I love anytime he's personally invested, he's bringing it. Sal, give me a prop you like out there.
Yeah, believe it or not, I have an over for the people. I'm feeling good today. It's National Gingerbread Day, so we're going with an over. And I loved all the things that Fitz said earlier about Kyren Williams. I have him for over 17.5 rush attempts tonight. Look, off-season, preseason, during the season, Sean McVay will say, we got to get some work off of Kyren Williams, keep him healthy. In theory, that makes sense, giving all the past histories to his ankle and foot for Kyren Williams. But once the bullets start flying, they tie up their shoes, they get onto the field, it's all Kyren Williams. Maybe Blake Corum gets a couple carries here or there. But for the most part, they continue to feed and trust Kyren Williams in all and key situations. 29 carries last week. 24 carries earlier this year when these teams faced off as well. And tonight is a close spread. 2.5 points, depending on which sports book you're looking at. In close games this year of at least 3 points, Kyren Williams is averaging over 18 carries per game. And on short weeks in his career, Matthew Stafford throws 20% less, which is naturally seen while running on Thursday Night Football. Everything sets up nicely for Kyren to have a big workload here. The game should stay close, maybe even lead in this game. Give me the over 17.5 rush attempts.
I feel like we just watched Sal's heart grow 2 sizes today. God, it just feels so good taking an over on this. All right, I'll keep the over magic going because I love offense. And by the way, I agree with everything you just said on Kyren, and I think it's going to be a great night for him. It's also going to be a big night for Puka Nacua. And now I realize we're sitting there saying, how can you get those rushing attempts but still get the receptions? It'll happen. Look, Nacua, as referenced earlier by Andy Behrens, I think it's interesting. Since week 8, 50 catches for 673 yards and 3 touchdowns. Only Jamar Chase and Jerry Jeudy have more receiving yards over that same period. And we know that Jerry Jeudy was because of one massive game. Like, there's something that we know about this offense every week, that Puka Nacua is going to get his touches. And the fact that he's catching such a big percentage of his targets. And we know on Thursday night, man, you want safety valve. You want things that I feel like the targets will be there, the catches will be there, and I feel really good about that one. Before we move on from this game, I want to get a question in from the YouTube chat. Chris Pittman, just because he used a lot of L's and help. So I'm going to say this the way it's written. Help! help me. I've already started the Bears. That's even worse than the Bears. Ask FFL, Berendo or Ramondre? I'll ask both of you guys. We'll start with Andy Behrens. Berendo or Ramondre? What do you think?
Yeah, this is really close for me, and I actually do have them in the same range. I would just go ahead and play Isaac Berendo here. I think the ceiling is a little bit higher, obviously, for the 49ers offense, and that's what kind of tips it in. If you feel like you're a really strong favorite, maybe you can just go Stevenson and just settle for whatever that's going to be, generally 10, 12, 15 fantasy points. But this time of year, when we're in the playoffs and it is must-win time and we're facing nothing but good opponents, I like to swing big, and I feel like the ceiling with Berendo is a little bit higher.
Sal, this is your chance to tell Andy he's lost his mind. Do you care to disagree?
No, I don't. I think he's hit the nail on the head here. The Patriots are 7-point underdogs, I believe, this week. They are coming out of a bye, but Stevenson has been bad. Amongst over 50 running backs, he ranks dead last in yards per carry this year. We saw Antonio Gibson start to get more usage before the bye week. Who knows if that continues? But I like the offense more for Berendo. I believe that he's healthy, and Berendo quietly does have some passing game upside as well, so I think he kind of checks all those boxes compared to Stevenson.
All right, I couldn't get you guys to disagree, but we can go from bad to good. Not just good, let's say great. The fantasy playoffs start now. I need a hero. That's right, I had to sing a little 80s song. We're holding out for a hero at the end of the night. Andy Behrens, when I say quarterback and hero, who say you?
How about Bo Nix? He was actually kicked to the curb in thousands of Yahoo leagues this past week while on bye, which I sort of understand in a league in which you only start one quarterback. Nix really needs to be scooped back up pretty much everywhere. He's only 63% rostered at the moment. This week, it's the Colts defense. That's a friendly spot. They give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. We've seen some pretty sketchy passers really put up numbers against them. After Indy, okay, it's a challenging matchup with the Chargers in the fantasy semifinals, but in championship week, Denver gets Cincinnati. And that is pretty much a dream matchup against a defense that's allowing nearly 28 total points per game on the season. They've given up the third most passing scores. It's just a great spot. We see it week in and week out. Nix has a real chance to close his year on a note that I think can make him not only a fantasy playoff hero, but a pretty serious contender for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
All right, Sal, when I say running back, who's the I can be your hero, baby? Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sean Tucker, which if you look at any consensus ranks right now with Bucky Irving not officially ruled out but not practicing this week, Tucker might not even pop up within your top 40 running backs. But I think that that's a mistake. This past week, Bucky Irving did not come back out for the second half of that game, re-injures his back. And if you look at the second half usage for the backfield, you'll see Rachaad White had 73% of the backfield carries, so it looks like he dominated the touches. But the Bucs only had 4 second half possessions. And across the first 3 of those possessions, it was actually Sean Tucker who had 4 opportunities for 47 yards, Rachaad White 5 for 39. Tucker had an explosive run of 34 yards, got them down to the 3-yard line, and Rachaad White comes in and kind of vultures that touchdown. It was a lot closer, and I think it will be a lot closer moving forward. The last time we got extended run out of Sean Tucker had that monster 192-yard game, multiple touchdowns. He's averaging nearly 7 yards every single time he touches the ball this year. Some fumbling issues, but assuming he doesn't fumble in this one, I think we're going to see 12 to 15 touches out of a very talented running back. That's enough to be in my top 36 running backs and a flex option if you need one in deeper leagues or maybe you're in a bind this week.
Let's go to our tight end expert, Andy Behrens. Who's got you singing, "Did you ever know that you're my hero for the playoffs"? I'm going to keep going with this, guys.
I don't know that I have ever actually sung that. There have only been like 4 or 5 right answers at tight end in fantasy this year, so definitely not enough good ones to go around. Within that context, within the context of this terrible position, I think Pat Freiermuth can be a real solution down the stretch. Admittedly, it's a bit of a tough spot on the surface anyway against Philly this week, but of course with George Pickens banged up, Freiermuth gets a little bit extra interesting. When we reach week 16, the fantasy semis, then it gets a Baltimore defense that is ranked poorly against the pass all season. We've been talking about him, picking on him all year. In week 17, when your fantasy title is being settled, Freiermuth faces Kansas City. That is the defense. I mean, they're good, but they have also allowed the most receiving yards to tight ends so far this year, the 4th most fantasy points overall. It has been a great matchup for this spot in particular. If you could hand select 2 defenses basically for someone's playoff schedule at this spot for any receiver, certainly for any tight end, these are probably 2 of the top contenders for it. So Freiermuth has a great shot at being a difference maker in the most important weeks.
All right, Sal, I know you thought I was out of them. No. And then a hero comes along for the defense special teams. Who do you got, Sal?
Yeah, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts. This one is pretty surprising to me. I know they were on bye last week, so of course basically dropped in most leagues out there, but they're still available in over 75% of Yahoo leagues. And the Colts playoff schedule is great. Not only are they playing better the past month or two of the season, definitely on their defensive line getting healthier, not getting run on by every team that they face, but this playoff schedule this week, okay, the Broncos, Bo Nix, that's probably their toughest matchup. But the last time we saw Bo Nix, he threw 2 interceptions against the Browns, only completed 51% of his passes. If you get through that though, it's week 16 and 17 where you really get paid off. In week 16, the Tennessee Titans, Will Levis, maybe even Mason Rudolph at that point with Levis dealing with injuries. That is the most fantasy points allowed to opposing defenses is the Titans. In the fantasy championship, you get Tommy DeVito and the Giants. When Tommy DeVito has started for the Giants dating back to last year, he gives up the most fantasy points per game to opposing defenses. This is available in over 80% of leagues, and I think they're arguably the best defense from week 16 to 17 right now in fantasy out there. Definitely a top 5 option. I think if they're available, go snag them.
All right, let's help people snag some decisions here. Make your pick time as we try and figure out how to help some of the great users out there that have submitted their questions. The first one comes from Damon. Damon asks, Vele, Otten, Cooks, Dobbs, Liget, need 2 of those in my flex. I lost 3 straight to end the season, going from first place to 4th and missing the bye week. These guys are the reason why. I feel you all the way to my core, Damon. All right, Andy Behrens, what do you got for Damon?
Yeah, this is kind of a graduate level question, right? These guys are the reason why you've been dropping some games. I get it; it's tough. I'm not that interested in Vele. He's more of a super deep league. You know, I just need 6 or 7 points kind of guy. Otten is really taking a back seat with Mike Evans back. I'm going to go Romeo Dobbs here. It seems like he's coming back from injury. He's been practicing this week. We like that. Dicey matchup, sure, against Seattle. It's been a pretty stingy pass defense over the last 4 weeks, but I just want to be in the Jordan Love business. And Green Bay has topped 30 points overall in their last 3 games. So that is an offense I want to be tied to. Legette is coming off such a rough game. I can't do it. I'm going to go Brandon Cooks here, and that feels a little bit like I'm chasing touchdowns because he scored in 2 straight. But this is also a guy who was, in the second half of last season, he was a top 20 fantasy receiver. I think he's going to remain relevant in the matchups great against Carolina.
The next question comes from Kells. Kells says, Warren, Bigsby, Isaiah Davis, Gus Edwards, pick 2, half PPR, also a Priest, but trending down. Sal, what do you think?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think my most confident option here is going to be Tank Bigsby this week. Here's the thing. Last week we saw him come back. He commanded the early down usage, and that turned into nearly 20 carries on the ground. And that was a game that was close the entire time. It was within 1 score, heck, 1 point for a lot of that game. And this week you might get that again. I mean, they're 3-point home underdogs this week for Jacksonville. Should be a neutral, maybe even positive game script for Bigsby to see another 15-plus touches. So Bigsby is my first option. And assuming Breece Hall is indeed out, I'm going to go with Isaiah Davis. I mean, the late round rookie ends up seeing 16 opportunities, same as Braylon Allen, over 50% of the snaps last week. This is a guy who had over 3,000 rushing yards his last 2 years in college, led all Division I football. So I think this is a nice opportunity for Isaiah Davis to probably go out there, see another dozen touches. It was pretty clear they wanted to split this backfield last week. Assuming Breece Hall is out, give me Davis and Bigsby.
All right, next question comes from Nick Michael. Sorry, Nick Michael, you got 2 first names. I don't know how that works in life. Nick Michael, full PPR, 1 needs the bench between Jalen Waddle, Keenan Allen, or DK Metcalf. Then, for tight end, Dalton Kincaid or Hunter Henry. What do you think, Andy Behrens?
Oh, this is a tough one because I'm a longtime DK Metcalf guy, and I will be a believer until he is out of the league. But I think I'm going to bench him here. Jalen Waddle has gone off in 2 of the last 3 weeks. He's been great. Everything has gotten right about Miami's offense. I want to be invested there. Keenan Allen just saw Minnesota a handful of weeks ago. He saw 15 targets. He found the end zone. He's going to get peppered with targets. It's not always pretty the way Keenan Allen gets his points, but I'm confident he will get them. DK Metcalf, just 4 touches in each of the last 3 games. There's just not been enough volume there.
All right, we will continue to keep answering your questions as we go, but I think we're going to get into the weekend injury report. We've got a lot of injuries to take a look at over the course of the weekend, including some did not practices today, not the least of which some names here we've all got our eyes on. Tony Pollard with an ankle, Alvin Kamara with an illness, DeAndre Swift a groin injury, Breece Hall with the knee injury. Obviously, those are all substantial. And then we got more coming in. Bucky Irving, coming in with the back and the hip. George Pickens with the hamstring. It's interesting. Evan Ingram with the shoulder injury. And then David Njoku with the hamstring injury. Those are all hitting us right as we get into the playoff time. So obviously everybody's got all eyes on those. Just a shameless plug. Remember to hang out with us on Sunday mornings because, frankly, we'll have the latest, greatest analysis for you from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern every Sunday. Now, let's turn to our fantasy game changers for this week. Powered by Ram Trucks, where we're identifying some of the most impactful players in one of the top fantasy matchups on the schedule. Big offense in a possible Super Bowl preview. Buffalo takes on Detroit at Ford Field. The Lions favored by 2.5 on this. The over and under on a beefy 54.4. When I say fantasy game changer, Sal Vetri, you say?
Amari Cooper. And I think we have to look at this Amari Cooper season because it might be one of the most unlucky seasons. First off, you start the year for the first 6 weeks or so with Deshaun Watson and maybe the worst passing attack in the league. And then you get traded away right before the Jameis Winston's renaissance hits the Cleveland passing attack. Okay, but you're going over to Josh Allen, your first game there. You only run 12 routes, but you find the end zone. It looks good. Okay, we're trending in the right direction. Next week, he injures his wrist. He's out 2 weeks. He plays in a blizzard. We really don't get the Amari Cooper experience until this past week against the Rams, a game where they fall behind. The game script is perfect for passing for Buffalo. We get 14 targets from Amari Cooper. That led all the Bills receivers not only in this game, but on the entire season. We got to see him unlocked in the short areas of field, intermediate, downfield, third downs, key situations. He was getting targeted often by Josh Allen on the first read the most, despite only running 26 routes. So there's actually some more room to grow here. Now you might say, oh, like how often are the Bills going to be trailing this year? And that's fair, but they might be this week, right? They're facing the Lions. They are underdogs in this one. It is a massive, the highest total on the week, depending on where you look, touching 55 points in some spots. I'm thinking Amari Cooper is going to run this one back. Maybe not 14 targets, but I feel good about another 8 to 10, if not more. Maybe get a couple more snaps and routes under his belt. Amari Cooper is somebody I'm watching in this matchup.
Yeah, the entire AFC is watching what can finally happen with Amari Cooper getting unlocked in this offense, and it makes the Bills look scary. Andy Behrens, what do you got for fantasy game changer for us?
Yeah, first of all, I love that Cooper call, and that man is owed a touchdown from Josh Allen. After pitching that ball to him, he is owed a touchdown. It better happen this week. But my guy here is going to be a different Bills receiver. It's going to be Khalil Shakir. He's just simply having one of my favorite seasons among all receivers. I don't know, among all skill players in the league. He's been a bankable wide receiver 2 all year. He was kind of a small sample hero last year, and he's now delivering that exact same efficiency, but on a much beefier workload. Shakir has caught 65 passes on the season. His catch rate remains over 80%, which is just silly for a wide receiver. That's a running back's catch rate. He's a guy with a relatively low ADOT, but crazy yards after catch numbers. He's gaining 8.3 yards after the catch. That's one of the highest rates in the league. And the only guys ahead of him are people like Jamison Williams, Marvin Mims, boom bust, big play types. They're not like Shakir. Shakir's passer rating when targeted, 113.4 so far this season. He leads all wide receivers in missed tackles. Just an absolute joy to watch. It is a low-key, brilliant year that we're watching from Shakir. He's definitely not among the most buzzy players in this offense, but almost no one has been better.
Look, I respect both of these picks by you guys, but you seem to have forgotten there are 2 teams playing. So I'll go ahead and pick a Lion that's a game changer for you. And look, I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's not really a hot take, but hear me out. He's in a little bit of a touchdown drought. That comes to an end in this matchup. Why? Because the Bills' defense in red zone is not particularly great against the pass. They've allowed the 4th highest red zone completion percentage, just over 65% over the course of this season. They can be got in the red zone area, and there are so many weapons that can get you in red zone offense. I really like the Lions' opportunity to use Amon-Ra in several different capacities to get him up there. I know his targets are down a little bit. His touchdown and drought is here, and it concerns everybody. This feels to me like a breakout. He's going to get a bunch of targets. He's going to get a touchdown. That makes him a fantasy game changer. Not exactly a bold prediction, but now we will give you some. It is time for bold predictions. This is where Andy Behrens tells us that a streaker is going to come out in the middle of the field and hand deliver a football. Like, it's going to get weird. Andy Behrens, what is your bold prediction for week 15?
Okay, it's weird, but it's not going to get that weird. I'm going to say that Kamani Vidal breakout week is upon us, that it has arrived. In case it escaped your attention last week, and I feel like it escaped a lot of people's attention, because Vidal is actually only rostered in 12% of Yahoo leagues. He played 53% of the snaps for the Chargers. That's the first time he's even approached 50 this year. Didn't have a noisy fantasy week. It was just 8 carries for 34 yards, low scoring game. And yes, Gus Edwards got the short yardage touchdown, but Gus played far fewer snaps than Vidal. Also, this is not exactly the best version of Gus Edwards we've ever seen. He's averaging just 3.5 yards per carry. And he's done it while looking like a 3.5 yards per carry guy, right? A little bit dusty. The Chargers get Tampa this week. That is a vulnerable defense. They give up 4.6 yards per carry on the season. If we get any sort of shootout element to this game, it really tilts in Vidal's favor because he's clearly the preferred pass catcher in this backfield. It may all come crashing down if J.K. Dobbins is back in week 17, which may happen. But I think the Kamani Vidal takeover can occur this week and last for a couple more. Think 70 to 80 yards with a receiving contribution, maybe a touchdown here. Again, only rostered in 12% of leagues. That's crazy to me.
That feels pretty bold. I'm going to go bold and much more specific because the football gods hate me. And that's what I figured out this year over the course of the year. The football gods hate me in real life and in fantasy football. And it always just sort of comes to a head. And it will happen on Monday night. Why? Because the Atlanta Falcons take off my beloved Raiders in Las Vegas. And this is the prediction. The bold prediction is that yet again, Kirk Cousins looks washed. And at halftime, we see Michael Penix Jr. come out. And all of a sudden, Michael Penix comes out and does everything that just reminds me why my favorite team didn't get a quarterback and the Falcons shocked everybody at the draft. This is the week that Michael Penix Jr. comes out, utilizes all the weapons. A massive second half leads to everybody just being absolutely reminded that the quarterback of the future is there in Atlanta, and the quarterback of the future was not drafted by beloved Raiders. And this is the week that I just slump into my couch in the middle of Monday Night Football, realizing that the failure of my organization will haunt me for the next 10 years. It's fine. It's fine. I'm handling it well. Michael Penix Jr. is going to have a primetime explosion in the second half. We're going to be talking about him and his greatness, and everybody's going to be wondering why they won or lost a playoff game based on Penix. That's why I drink. Sal, give me a bold take that will make me feel better on Gingerbread Day.
I don't even know how I'm supposed to follow that one up, but I'm going to go with Brian Robinson finishes as the RB1 overall, which might not seem bold after the thing that Fitz just said, but Robinson hasn't finished as a top 10 running back at all this season, and he has so many things working in his favor this week. First off, he's coming off of the bye. I think that's extremely important because Robinson the past 2 months has been dealing with knee and hamstring strains, so he's going to be healthy. He also comes into a great matchup. He's going to take on the Saints. He's a 7-point favorite. The Saints, according to PFF, ranked dead last in run defense, are a bottom 5 tackling team, and we've seen that in so many matchups this year. As a favorite this year, not even a big favorite, which he is this week, just a favorite in general, when he completes the game 6 times, he averages 15 fantasy points. And that was with Austin Eckler in most of those games. Eckler remains on IR. Robinson very quietly led the team through 3 quarters last week in routes run. He saw more receiving game usage in that aspect. Then it was a blowout against Tennessee, gets pulled in the 4th quarter. Some of the metrics get a little bit staticky. You kind of see, okay, Chris Rodriguez comes in. That really wasn't anything. This is Brian Robinson's backfield. He's getting all the usage in a great matchup with an extra week of rest. I think he goes for 120 plus yards and 2 touchdowns and is the RB1 overall.
That's still going to make me very sad. All right, let's be cheerful now with the hurry up offense. Bring everybody together, throw 25 seconds on the clock with as many questions answered as we possibly can. And we will start with Melon Baller. I don't know if that's just a hobby or that's talking about his kitchen utensils. Guarendo or Chubb, also bench one. The plays tonight, Kupp, the recently sleepy A.J. Brown, the stack with Kirk over Mahomes, Drake London, the suddenly surging Adam Thielen. What do you think, Andy Behrens?
Wow. First of all, I'm playing Guarendo tonight. Chubb in what is probably going to be a low-scoring game. Again, I want ceiling, and I want that with Guarendo. I don't know how you're playing Kirk Cousins over Patrick Mahomes. I'm just not doing it. I agree with everything you said about the Michael Penix possibility. There's no way I would play him over Mahomes. If I have to sit one of those guys, it's Thielen, and I play Mahomes. I'm sorry I went over.
That's okay. We'll allow it. It's Gingerbread Day. We've got the joy in our hearts. Kyle Jordan, full PPR, need one for flex. Dowdle, Taylor, Debo, or Thielen. I'm leaning Dowdle based on volume and matchup. What do you think, Sal?
Yeah, Kyle, you're right. I'm going Dowdle here, which sounds crazy when you're comparing him to Jonathan Taylor. That would sound insane 2 months ago. But Rico Dowdle's coming off of back-to-back career highs in total yardage, and now he faces the team that allows the most rushing yards and most rushing touchdowns to running backs in the Panthers. This is a great spot for Dowdle once again.
The next question up on the clock comes from Eric Hayes, who says start 3 at wide receiver. Devontae Adams, Juwan Jennings, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans. What do you think, Andy?
Oh, I think this is a great opportunity for you to not even think about the Jets offense again this season, and certainly not this week. And I would probably sit Devontae Adams here. I don't want to sit Juwan Jennings. He's been great. Sal talked him up earlier. Don't want to sit A.J. Brown in a squeaky wheel week. I love his setup actually against Pittsburgh. I think this would be a big game incoming. You can't bench Evans.
Drew Down 1266 asks very simply, Tua versus Purdy. What do you think, Sal?
Yeah, give me Purdy. He looked healthy last week. He looked great as well for what that's worth. And he currently has with the 49ers the 5th highest team total on the week. They're projected for 26 points in this game tonight. You compare that to Tua, who has also been great the past month. A little bit of a tougher spot against the Texans. The Dolphins only are projected for 22 points. That's bottom half of the league. So I'll take Purdy at this point.
Ooh, that's amazing. All right, let's get, I like emojis. Michael in the YouTube chat, Michael Harris, star, football, Christmas tree, Santa, whatever we want to call this thing. And then biceps. Pick 2 wide receivers, Addison, Evans, Waddle, Judy, or A.J. Brown. And then just a lot more, like we got faces, footballs. Andy Behrens, what do you think?
Yeah, man, Michael, you've outdone yourself. You've been the master of emojis this year, and this is really incredible. I'm going to go A.J. Brown here. I'm going to trust one of the very best receivers in the game. I know he's been a little bit quiet lately, and I'm going to go Mike Evans as well.
Also, where'd the stadium emoji come from? That is well done.
You snuck that in.
Know how to do. I mean, yeah, what are we doing here? All right, I don't understand the name. T006TV, I don't know. Is Debo going to have a comeback game tonight? Debo, Ertz, Ridley, half PPR, pick 2, please. Help! What do you think, Sal?
He could have a coming game. I hope he does, right? There's been maybe a little bit of a squeaky wheel, but in this scenario, I'm going Calvin Ridley over Debo Samuel. Ridley coming off a 38% target share. The volume is just there.
Akuma Chef says, Guerrero or Cook? I have JT and Jacobs as my other running back this week. A lot of Guerrero questions. What do you think, Sal? Or sorry, Andy. It's Andy's turn. Sal, sit down. Andy's turn.
I'd play Cook here, and I again, no issue with Guerrero whatsoever, but I would play Cook here in a game that has a total closing in on 55, right? I want to chase the points in that one.
I also can neither confirm nor deny if Sal is sitting or standing right now. So, I just, we don't know. I also can never, like, George Jorge, you got to tell me in the chat sometime, because you ask questions all the time, and I love it. But George Alberto could be Jorge Alberto. I don't know. I know people that say it both ways, that spell it both ways. So, Stafford or Winston, 4-point touchdown, and which 2? Drake, Jennings, CD, half PPR. Sal, what do you think?
Yes, I'm going to be going with Drake and Jennings there. I think this is a phenomenal spot for what I said earlier about Jennings, and I can't sit Drake London at this point. The amount that they motion him into the slot, the amount that he's just put all over the field and the first read in that offense. And then in terms of the quarterback situation, I know Jameis has been completely up and down, and that could be maybe you trying to hit the up this week, but I'm going Stafford. I'm going Stafford in a game tonight where he's a road underdog with a huge total. Expect a lot of points.
I'm going rogue and getting another YouTube question in here. I'm just going to ask another one. The next one from YouTube, Drew Whitman said, need to know who I start, Wilson, Evans, or Jennings. Andy Behrens, what do you think?
Oh man, I don't want to sit Evans or Jennings. This one's really painful. I think I would play Jennings here. Evans has been sitting in practice. Hopefully he returns tomorrow, but I think I'd go ahead and just play Juwan Jennings tonight. He's great.
I think I'm going to go rogue for another one. Dan, just tell me if I can't go rogue, but I'm going to get rogue one more. Sports from the couch. Let's say you exist in a multiverse in which Pollard, Bucky, Guerrero, White, Braylon Allen, and Kendre Miller are on your team in a full PPR with only 2 starting spots. Where do you go? All right, what do you think, boys?
Yeah, I would go a lot of names. Assuming Pollard plays, he's dealing with an injury. I'm going to go to Pollard still, just getting usage everywhere at this point, coming off of another 120 total yardage game. And then I'm probably going to go with Braylon Allen. Enough touches, even in a split backfield, for me to enjoy 15, 16 opportunities, probably 5 or 6 targets in a good upside spot.
You can't make me stop this show. Dave in real life. I don't know about Dave in fake life. Dave in real life. Jennings, Evans, Addison, or Jamison Williams need 2 half PPR. What do you think, Andy?
Oh man, I feel like I'm getting a lot of the same names here. Okay, I'm going to go Jennings because I've done it 3 times already, and I think I've talked myself into Mike Evans. Your pivot, if there's any worry about his injury, is probably going to be Jordan Addison because he destroyed the Bears in their last game.
Right. Remember, we're back here Sunday morning at noon Eastern. We get you set for the remainder of Week 15 with the latest, greatest information. You got to make sure that you check it out every single Sunday. And also, make your own icing when you're doing the gingerbread house. It's really easy to do, and it tastes better. For most importantly, for everybody behind the scenes that works so hard, for Andy Behrens, for Sal Vetri, I'm Jason Fitz. Thank you so much for watching Fantasy Football Live, presented by Ram Trucks.